here's what I want to introduce you to. In the 1970s, there was a German medical practitioner. He was a trained internist, a medical doctor. His name was Dr. Hammer. I never met the man. I know that some people would describe him as brilliant and having a big heart. His patients loved him. He was very intelligent. He developed a number of patents on surgical equipment that are still used today. He and his wife would care for patients pro bono in the slums of Rome. So this was a man that wanted to serve. At the same time, if you Google his name on the internet, a lot of not so great stuff will come up, and often this happens in the medical world, especially mainstream conventional medicine. If you dare to go against the current, if you bring controversial new discoveries that challenge everything we believed, others will want to dig deep, disparage your character, question your motives, and make accusations. So you'll find both about him on the internet. Like I said, I don't know him personally, so I can't attest to who he was as a man. I can only encourage you to do your own research and decide what feels true to you or what you accept as fact. As always, my emphasis in these presentations is going to be on the scientific truths that were presented rather than the personality of the man who discovered them. So what did he discover? Well, during his career, Dr. Hammer suffered a devastating tragedy. He had a teenage son named Dirk who was accidentally shot and was clinging to life, but eventually died in his father's arms. Now, not long after his son died, Dr. Hammer was diagnosed with testicular cancer, even though previously he had been otherwise healthy. And that set off something in his mind. The timing seemed too coincidental, and he wanted to study the relationship between traumatic shocks that happen in a person's life and the timing and onset of disease symptoms. So he was working at the University of Munich on a cancer ward with patients, and you know what he recognized? He saw that other men who were diagnosed with testicular cancer like he was had also at some point previously suffered a significant and devastating loss. Not only that, but when he reviewed their CT scans, he found this targeted ring formation on the image in a specific part of the brain, which you can see in the pictures I have here. So every patient who suffered the same type of shock, for example, a devastating loss, a traumatic loss, had a lesion, this ring-formed shape on the CT scan, in the exact same part of the brain. So everybody that suffered a traumatic loss had the same lesion in the same part of the brain. And every patient who had that lesion on that part of the brain had the same cancer diagnosis. Pretty interesting, huh? So he began to wonder, well, if that type of shock produced this type of lesion in this part of the brain and resulted in a similar medical history with testicular cancer, could other people with other type of traumatic shocks have the same lesion in other parts of the brain, which affected a different organ and therefore they had a different diagnosis? So he spent the rest of his life reviewing case studies, building a body of research, which became the foundation for what we today call German New Medicine or German healing knowledge. This has application. This information can be applied not only with autoimmune disease, even with cancer, with heart attacks, mental illness, and more. So over the next few days, I'm going to be showing you how to apply this biological science so that you can trace your own symptoms backwards by creating a personal timeline to identify the specific conflicts that you experienced. We are then going to discuss how those conflicts resulted in your specific symptoms, as well as the importance of learning to change your perception of the conflicts so that you can find practical resolutions and relieve your symptoms.